So that is a little bit of the film. And that's what leftists today are mad about. They're mad about the depiction of African Americans as slaves, doting on the white characters in the film. They're saying that that is wrong, even though that's representative of what the time was like. And what was it, the antebellum South? It's insane that they want to take this historical portrait and say that it's no longer tolerant enough. Now, what HBO is saying, HBO pulled it off of their streaming service. What HBO is saying is that they're going to put it back up, but they're going to put it up with a warning to people.
A warning.
A warning letting them know that this film is culturally insensitive.
What in the hell is going on, Max? What are we doing? This is absurd. Now everyone is just a flaming snowflake. I don't even that by itself, by the way, is idiocy. A flaming snowflake. It can't happen.
Yeah, they're making it happen.
We come down to Josh, our producer. Josh, how crazy is this?
I just don't understand what's going on with it. These are some of the most amazing film classics that we've ever had in film history. And for the cause that is coming up for it, we are just willing to throw away history. And history.
Do you think only white people actually watched Gone with the Wind?
I'm sorry?
Do you think only white people watch Gone with the Wind?
I think anybody who loves film would be watching this. The answer is no.
Because the theatrics of it are great, and I'm sorry, history is what history is.
Yeah. So here's the other dynamic to this: the black woman that you saw in that clip adjusting what's her name, Scarlett's corset. Her name, the actress, her name is Hattie McDaniel. And would you believe that she is the first African American woman to receive an Academy Award? And she received an Academy Award for her portrayal in this role. Let's play a brief clip of her accepting that award. Let's play cut 2.
Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science, fellow members of the motion picture industry, and honored guests. This is one of the happiest moments of my life. And I want to thank each one of you who had a part in selecting me for one of the awards. For your kindness, it has made me feel very, very humble. And I shall always hold it as a beacon for anything that I may be able to do in the future. I sincerely hope I shall always be a credit to my race and to the motion picture industry. My heart is too full to tell you just how I feel. And may I say thank you. And God bless you.
Unbelievable. And
So
they want to take that away from her too.
Yep. So if you want to actually look at the history of African Americans in film, you cannot study the African American history in film without studying Gone with the Wind, because she won an Academy Award. She was the first black woman to win an Academy Award, and she's up there in tears of joy, not in tears of being like marginalized or being forced to play a caricature of African Americans. She's crying out tears of joy because she had an opportunity, and she's the first black woman to win an Academy Award for that role.
We're in a
today
war,
are now
Max.
claiming is racist.
We're in a war. We're in a war. We're in it. We're in it. I want to on this show bring up something that happened to me this morning, but I can't because I have to wait. We had to send it over to the lawyers, but I think you already know what happened, right? So the amount of idiocy that we have in our country is absurd.
You don't have to talk about it. If the lawyers are dealing with it, the
lawyers are dealing with it. But we had to go to lawyers. We had to get lawyers involved. Why? Because you have extremists that have taken over, that have infiltrated under the guise of the guise of justice, the guise of just morally right, of equality. What do these people know about equality? Where were they 30 years ago when I was a kid, having to deal with the fact that blacks hated me because my mom was white, whites hated me because my dad was black? I had to learn to fight because on the streets, that's what we had to do. We had to stand up all the time. I had to stand up for my brothers, stand up for my sisters, where they got ridiculed. Everywhere you turn, they got ridiculed, right? In our nation's capital. And you want to talk to me about racism? Yeah. You want to talk to me about the fact that you're woke? What are you woke from? Tell me what you're woke from. It's amazing that I got to the place that I got to in my life and that I've been able to enjoy the success, given how many obstacles those that want to go march on the street put in front of me and my family. But now they're woke. They're woke up. Where were they woke
Yeah.
30 years ago or 20 years ago or 10 years ago? Our entire company looks like the United Nations, right? And they want to talk to me about the fact that they're woke? Well,
Yeah.
I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted by every part of it because it's all just for theater.
Yeah.
This is all for theater. Let's take it down. Let's look like we care. They're not changing anything. They're not changing anything other than trying to change history.
It's slacktivism, and what's obvious to anyone who's looking at this is they have no actual understanding of history.
No,
I'm gonna
none.
jump around.
Zero.
I'm gonna jump around the cuts a little bit. Josh, let's throw up image number 1. This is an image of a monument in Massachusetts dedicated to the 54th Massachusetts Regiment, which was
is an all-black regiment.
An all-black
And they destroyed
regiment of soldiers. They destroyed it. I want to play this clip, and I hope we're commenting on this, so this is fair use. But if you are a film buff, you will recognize the 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment from a famous film called Glory. Let's play a brief clip, cut 6. So that is a clip from the movie Glory, which
You know what that looked like to me?
documents. What does that look like?
That looked like courage.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
these
courage.
frappuccino little punks wearing masks with pink hair and colored fingernails. That's not courage.
Yeah, no.
That's not courageous.
It's not. So the 54th Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry Regiment, they stormed, I believe it was Fort Wagner, and they suffered heavy, heavy losses. And they ultimately didn't take the fort. But what ended up happening was the bodies of these soldiers, they tried to storm the fort, they failed.
Right.
But the bodies actually poisoned the water supply underneath the fort. So the Southern Confederate soldiers had to abandon the fort anyway because their water supply was poisoned. Just a little interesting factoid, even though they didn't succeed in taking the fort in life, they did force the Confederates out in death. And here's a monument. Let's throw that image again up. Let's throw image 1 up again. Here's a monument dedicated to their sacrifice, and it's completely defiled. It's completely spray painted.
Because they don't know history.
Black Lives Matter. Who in their right minds spray paints Black Lives Matter on a monument dedicated to an all-black Civil War regiment? How does that make sense? So when you see them going after films like Gone with the Wind, and they're claiming that they're experts on this, that they know what they're talking about, they don't. The same people saying that Gone with the Wind is too racist are the same people out there defiling black monuments.
And they were fighting for this thing called freedom, right?
Yes.
And look, they don't even understand history books. I bet you none of these little punks have read a history book. They've never read a history book. They've never read 1776 by McCullough, right? They don't read books. If they read books, they would have a better understanding about what sacrifice looks like. This isn't a sacrifice to try and take half a town in Seattle. I'm telling you, we need to go down there and smack them around, right? And you could say, Joe, you're calling to violence. No, I'm not. I'm calling to reality. And the reality of it is that if you don't stand up with courage, if you don't stand up today, you'll have nothing to stand up for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on. I don't care about that. And you shouldn't either. They've divided us so deeply on stuff that just doesn't matter when it comes to just the preservation of our republic, the things that should matter. And the people that died, they just spit on the face of the people that literally died fighting for those freedoms, that ran into battle knowing gunfire was coming at them. That is sacrifice. That is courage. What they are is a bunch of pansies. That's what they are.
Yeah.
And we want to glorify them. I'm out. I'm out.
Yeah.
They're
not just trying to go after the war monuments. Like we've talked about this in the past on Conservative Daily, the attack against statues that they don't like. One of the statues that the left loves to go after is Christopher Columbus, and any statue to Columbus, they love to deface, they love to defile. This week, however, not only did they defile the statue of Christopher Columbus, I believe it was in Richmond, Virginia, but the protesters, I use that term very loosely, the protesters not only like defiled it with paint and graffiti, but they actually tossed the statue in a lake. Let's go to cut 3.
They knocked it down.
Why?
Hello, everyone. We got here after this was already done, and they said they feel relieved and they love Richmond.
So I would love to know how destroying a statue of Christopher Columbus does anything to honor George Floyd, does anything to fight back against what they claim to be systemic police brutality. This has nothing to do with that, right? Every Thanksgiving, Christopher Columbus's statue in Richmond and other cities gets defiled. You saw the picture where they threw red paint on it. But this time they're taking it to a new level. They actually tossed it in a lake. And you might have been able to hear that a kid asked their parent why they do that. And the parent is just like, there's no reason for this. There's no answer for this.
No.
How a protest over George Floyd's death would lead to a Christopher Columbus statue being tossed
They
in a
are
lake.
changing.
There's no legitimate reason for it.
So you know what? Here, I think what they're trying to do is split the country in half, which frankly is fine with me. You guys want to literally go and have a country? We should. I mean, I'm for it. I'm now for it. Well, instead of the United States, we'll have the Western United States and we'll have the Eastern United States. And everyone on the East that believes that Antifa is so great, go hang out with Antifa. See how that they eat their own, because that's what they do. They just eat their own. You know, they criticize each other. One one word that comes out of your mouth that they don't like, and it's cancel.
Yeah.
Hey, what happened?
Not even... Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. What happened? Have you heard about this guy that got canceled by Hollywood and canceled by the media? Let me tell you what his name is. You ready?
There's a lot.
This guy had influence. He had influence. And the black community, the minority community, looked up to him. Until one day he woke up and said, "What's this all about?" He started asking questions. And, frankly, he found his faith. And yet, they ridiculed him for it. They called him crazy. He stood up and said, "I like Donald Trump." And they canceled him for it. And they told him he was crazy. Kanye West. Have you heard of him at all anywhere? Do you know the great things that Kanye West is doing? But they have literally actually taken him out of the equation. Candace Owens, what are they doing with her? They literally are censoring her on Twitter. They're censoring her on Facebook. They're doing everything they can.
She had a what was it? She had a GoFundMe set up.
Yeah.
For a conservative business
and
owner.
GoFundMe.
And GoFundMe took it down because they said that it was hateful. It was a GoFundMe to help a conservative business who had his shop or his restaurant, I forget which one, ransacked by looters. They took it down because Candace Owens was associated with it, and they said that made it hateful. Raising money to help a business owner rebuild was hateful. It's insane.
And look at what happens with us on Facebook. By the way, if you're listening to this, share this podcast. Share it. I want you to share it and share it and share it and share it and keep sharing it and share it again and show up here every day on noon and share it and get the message out and let people hear it and like our page and contribute and do the things that are necessary, because Facebook is making it impossible for us to actually get out there because they're trying to silence us. I mean, Max, how many times have we actually spent money on Facebook and they basically said, "Yeah, we'll take your $100 and we'll show it to 10 people." Right?
Yeah, we spent money on Facebook building an audience, and then Facebook decided that audience meant nothing. They weren't gonna. Yeah. Right. So I mean, we've been doing a pretty good job of getting people to the page with the podcast, with the other videos and live streams we're doing
everywhere else.
So
right?
we're getting through it.
Podbean is blowing up because they haven't gotten to us there yet, right? And on Apple Podcasts, it's growing up there. But we need you to keep sharing it. Just keep sharing the content. Get the message out there. I promise you we will not do one thing. We will not lie to you. I will not get in here and lie to you. Look, there's a lot of messages that some conservatives just don't like that I say. There's a lot of perspectives that I have. The conservatives are like, is he a liberal or is he a conservative? But I'm run by my own experience. I don't walk a party line. Max, you don't walk a
Yeah.
party line. How many times have we had to attack Mitch McConnell, right, for
Yeah.
losing his back? How many times have we had to have conversation about weak leadership holistically? We don't care what you are. If you don't stand up for the American people, we're going to come after you.
Yeah.
Right?
Our conservative daily podcast, our conservative daily call to action today is about the vote tomorrow. The vote in the Senate Judiciary Committee. It's scheduled for tomorrow to basically give Lindsey Graham the ability to issue over 50 subpoenas to people in the DOJ and the FBI who participated in the coup against Donald Trump. Today, we're calling out the GOP. People like Mitt Romney who are trying to slow walk that, say, oh, the timing isn't right, complaining that the investigation into the attempted coup to remove the president is becoming too political. He was okay with the deep state traders removing the president, but trying to dig in and get to the bottom of it is apparently too political in Mitt Romney's mind. So, we push back against Republicans. We push back against Democrats. We are completely blind to party in that.
And we should
fight
be.
For what?
Because at some point, Max, it shouldn't be about you, shouldn't it be about me, shouldn't it be about Josh, shouldn't it be about the people out there? It's also about the George Floyds of the world and the people that have racial injustice against them. Let's just be sensible, not act like this. The world is on fire. I got an email this morning from a young man that I've been talking to that's black, very educated. We've talked about him before, right? I love this kid. And he's like, Joe, I'm actually scared to be a black man. I said, well, what changed from yesterday to today? I basically said that. What changed? If you want to concentrate on the negative, you want to actually have them drive us as people into darkness, there is no light there. There is no light. There is no light.
Yeah.
You want to shed lights on the fact that there are bad people out there that are in positions of trust and authority? Let's shed all of the light. Let's not adjust and say, hey, look, they're okay because they're on my football team. They're on my political team. No, the political ideology of this country has been hijacked, right?
And it has. And we've gone over this on the show in the last couple of episodes that the data doesn't lie. It has never been safer to be black in the United States. It has never been safer to be a black man in the United States. The data just doesn't lie in that respect. So to hear that is so disheartening because there are people at work, there are mainstream media outlets, there are politicians trying to make people believe that there are Klansmen running around the South just lynching people with impunity, right? They're trying to make the claim that there are Klan rallies. I mean, we saw that one in Charlottesville, which was a bunch of stupid white people with tiki torches. That's what passes for a Klan rally today. You talk to people in my parents' generation or your parents' generation, Joe. They have a very different idea of what a Klan rally looked like.
My dad used to tell me. Oh, my dad used to tell me stories, man. He used to tell me stories, right? And he grew up in a small place called Lynchburg, Virginia.
Yeah.
Right. And for those of you that don't know Lynchburg, Virginia is it was a crazy place. It was a crazy place. There's a lot of bad things that happened to blacks, right?
Yeah.
And yesterday I got an email that said, well, what about Hispanics? What about them? I'm not talking about them. I'm not talking about them right now. I'm talking about there's no denying the fact that, look, 95% of the people in this country did not have slaves. 5% did. And slaves were treated badly or they weren't treated badly. It was one or the other. But there's a lot that's been built in this country on the backs of slaves. That is absolutely true. But if you go through Europe, same thing. If you go through Africa, same thing. That
debt was paid in blood. That's what the Civil War, part of what the Civil War was fought
130,000 people.
That in blood.
130,000 people.
The idea, I want to transition to this because we heard this week that COPS is also being pulled from the air. COPS was on the air for 30 years.
Yeah,
it went off. It went off and it came back on a different network. Now they've announced that they're not going to bring COPS back. Let's play this clip. I believe it's from a Las Vegas news station. Let's play this clip. Let's go to cut 4.
Well, after more than 30 years on the air, COPS has been canceled as the debate over policing continues. Now, the show has followed officers around the nation and right here in the Valley as they made arrests. It was supposed to debut on the Paramount Network Monday, June 15th. The spokesperson, though, for Paramount Network says right now there are no plans to bring back the show.
Unbelievable.
So I grew up watching COPS and COPS.
Bad boys.
We would watch it. Yeah. Well, don't sing too much of it. We don't want. Don't say it. Stop singing it. Can't sing copyrighted music.
You can't?
Growing up,
I can sing
can't.
it.
Growing up, no, you can't. You can't sing copyrighted
Can I go
music.
this?
Growing up, no, stop it. Growing up with the
I didn't
show,
sing it.
growing up with this show, my grandparents, I remember watching this actually with my great grandpa and him using it as like a teaching moment, right? You watch Cops and you realize, okay, I don't want to be the meth head getting dragged into a police car at 3 a.m., right? It's a teaching moment. And that song, which we can't play because it's copyrighted or can't sing because it's copyrighted, that song taught an entire generation you don't want to be in these situations. There's a case that's coming up in Austin, Texas. It was a 2019 case. The man's name is Javier Ambler. I don't know if you've read this at all. Javier Ambler was featured on the show Live PD, which is similar to Cops, but it's actually run on A&E Network. And they're debating whether or not to bring Live PD back. He was actually videotaped on that show, and the show caught police killing him. Now, police were trying to pull him over for having his bright lights on and not turning them off. He then ran from police. I think it was a 22-minute high-speed chase on like highways and into residential neighborhoods. The police he finally crashed his car, and the police tased him like 4 times. And in the video, he's pleading he has a heart condition. They tased him and they killed him. Live PD captured that on videotape. So there's no doubt in my mind, without Live PD capturing that interaction between Ambler and the police department, his name would not be front page news now in Texas. We know what police did to him because it was captured on this show. So the knee-jerk reaction to take Cops off the air, it makes no sense to me, because on the one hand, we're told that we need body camera footage to hold police accountable. Absolutely right. But now this next knee-jerk reaction to say, okay, well, we don't want film crews to capture it either. How does that make sense, right? We know that body cameras, police don't always turn on their body cameras. A lot of times there's missing footage. But when you have a TV crew attached, that just increases the likelihood of you being able to catch police officers in the act of committing a crime. And in this case, they tased this man, I think it was 4, 5, 6 times, and killed him. So to take these shows off the air, all because they think cops are bad, it's going to have a tremendously negative impact, because you're going to miss cases like this. You're going to miss situations like where you have the ability to catch bad cops in the act, and now you're just going to be reliant on body cameras, which, as we know, are not foolproof. It's insane to me. It's literally so self-defeating. It's a shot in the foot to take shows like Cops and Live PD off the air. I'm almost at a loss for words.
Well, I'm not at a loss for words. It's all BS. I'm not at a loss for words at all. I think this is the biggest erosion of our republic ever. And it's all being run by people who don't understand history. They don't understand history. They don't understand the amount of blood that was spilled to preserve the rights that they have today. Bunch of spoiled little brats. That's what they are, right? That, by the way, don't have it. Do you know what they're doing, by the way, to go to basic training now? Do you know that the drill sergeants are not allowed to, quote unquote, yell?
Oh, they're not. They're not allowed to yell. They're not allowed to insult them. They're not allowed to call them lady boys. They're not allowed to do a whole host of things.
Do you know every other country out there that is a superpower is laughing at us? They didn't have to. Or they didn't have to interfere with our election. They've already interfered with our society. You have people from other countries that have come in. The Almar, whatever her name is, and whatever the other woman is, right? I forget what her name is, who comes in and literally says, that propaganda, and just wants to disregard our country. Yet we saved them from theirs. We saved them from their country, and they come in here and they want to turn it into the same place that they left, they ran from, to have opportunity here.
Yeah,
I've just had. Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, I have to submit a claim, because you thought I was kidding. We just showed just a couple of seconds of a news reel explaining how Cops is being taken off the air, which we have absolute right to do it. We have the right to show news footage and to talk about it. That's the definition of fair use, which is what we're doing.
And they just came on. That's because they watch our page. They watch it. They literally watch our page, and they ridicule us as an organization because we can't speak truth. They don't want you to hear truth. No truth. Hey, you know what? We're going to cancel you if you speak truth. If you don't speak a truth that we want, our loony left agenda, we're going to cancel you. Yeah, look at this. A link has been added to your video that gives cops credit for content they may own. Unbelievable. We're in the middle of the show, and it's actually doing that. Yeah. The middle of the show.
Yeah, it's so I'm submitting this dispute. And that's why I was telling you, stop singing that song. because they are now they're not trying to take it down.
Yeah, I was talking about. I was actually talking about in that segment, and we have to explain it now. I was talking about the fact that it's ingrained in my mind, right? That it's ingrained in most people's mind. You would talk to most people out there, and I mean, they made a movie series about it, Bad Boys.
Yeah.
Right? And that movie series was based on cops.
Yeah. I don't even know if we're allowed to say the word cops now. It's ridiculous. We just played, and anyone listening to this on Google Play, Google Play Store,
Share
Apple
us.
Podcast, or
Share.
We do also live stream this, so when you hear the audio, we are live streaming video as well. So we just played video footage of a Las Vegas news report, 25 seconds of how cops being taken off the air, and that footage was flagged as being violative of cops' copyright. It's insane. But I mean, that's what I think that was automated. I don't think, because that report came from COPS itself, COPS, all in caps. It didn't come from any third party. So I think that was an automated thing. But that's why we have to be very careful and not sing copyrighted music, Joe, because they also have algorithms.
I'm not a very good singer.
Even if you have a crappy singing voice, believe it or not, they have
I don't have a crappy singing voice.
Well, so let's segue. Let's segue.
That hurt my feelings.
Yeah. Well, you'll feel a little bit better, not for this person.
I'm gonna go take over. I'm gonna go take over a police station that's been abandoned for years because I feel like you're not being sensitive to me.
Yeah. Okay, John Valjean. This is I want to play this clip because this was last night on Fox News. This is on Tucker Carlson's show. We're gonna play this and then we're gonna talk about this, and this is fair use. So go ahead and flag it, I guess, but this is completely fair use. I want to play this clip because Tucker tells the story of a soccer player, and I don't remember his name, but he plays for the LA Galaxy, and his wife posted on social media in Serbian, foreign language, that she disagreed with the protest. She said some mean things, but the liberals got wind of this and forced the LA Galaxy to fire him, not for something he did, but for something his wife did. Let's play this clip. Let's play cut 5.
His wife wrote in Serbian, which she speaks, and yet someone noticed them anyway and then attacked her for writing them. She deleted the post very quickly, but it was too late. Now, we should be clear that her husband, the soccer player, may not even have known that she wrote the posts. His wife was in Chicago when she wrote them. He was practicing with his team in Los Angeles, but it didn't matter. Protesters dutifully arrived at the stadium to call for his firing. So the management of the LA Galaxy forced Katai to apologize for his wife and then to denounce her.
Denounce your wife.
His own wife.
I wouldn't.
Then they made him endorse Black Lives Matter, which he did, and then they fired him anyway, and then they attacked him on his way out for something he didn't even do and may not even have known about, that was written in a language almost nobody in America understands. That's what happened. The team's president, Chris Klein, sounded pleased by the whole thing. Quote, "In the end," he said, "we have to look at what the club stands for and who we are."
Wow.
So I like that clip because I like the way that Tucker broke it down. It was something he didn't do, that he apologized for anyway. His wife did it in a language next to no one actually speaks. They forced him to apologize. They forced him to denounce his wife. They forced him to support Black Lives Matter, and then they fired him anyway. And they said that they did the right thing. It's insane. And Tucker hit the nail on the head with that. I love the way that he brought that. He basically explained it. And I have to say this. I'm obligated to say this to make that clip fair use. But I do feel that. I do feel that way. That was an excellent way to explain what happened to this man. And he didn't do anything wrong himself. His wife in another city commented on her personal Facebook page, and that was enough for them to fire him, but only after they forced him to toe the party line. It's insane. They're going for blood. This cancel culture has gotten out of control.
We are headed towards a war.
They're not just trying to cancel like Gone with the Wind, which it's a film classic, right? They're not just trying to cancel that. They're not just trying to cancel Christopher Columbus. They're trying to cancel anyone who even remotely gets in the way of their agenda. And as we saw in this case that Tucker talked about, that's why I used the word remotely, because this soccer player had absolutely nothing to do with it, and yet he was fired anyway.
It amazes me, Max, that we have gotten to the place where you don't have the freedom to speak your mind. you don't have the freedom to disagree with someone else because then they think they can attack you. It amazes me we've gotten to that place. And all in the guise of justice, they are actually anti-fascists are fascists.
Yeah.
Just so you know, Antifa, they're all a bunch of fascists. They're all a bunch of communists. They're trying to create what they're telling you they're fighting against. They are the problem, right?
Yeah.
Anyone that says that they're not is just doesn't understand what fascism means. They don't understand it. And because people have no knowledge, because people aren't that bright, they follow people like Antifa. That's what happens.
Yeah. No, they do. It's I don't even know. It's just so infuriating because you see that they're just trying to. The Democratic mantra has always been never let a good crisis go to waste, and this is no different. They're trying to use this unrest to push their different policy agendas across the finish line. They did this with the coronavirus, right? Trying to make corporate boards report their company's diversity salaries. Things like that, like the Green New Deal, trying to push through, I think it was $50 or $500 million to study, I think it was $50 million to study climate injustice, the idea that the weather is racist, right? These stupid things that they were trying to use the coronavirus as an excuse to push across the finish line. We're seeing them do it now with all these protests and all these riots. They're trying to gain ground in their culture war, whether that means tossing a Christopher Columbus statue in the lake, whether that means taking down a Confederate statue. And listen, I'm no Confederate. I'm no neo-Nazi. I don't support the Confederacy, but I do firmly believe that when you take down these relics of the past, you're doomed to repeat the mistakes of our forefathers, right? I don't like keeping these statues up to glorify the Confederacy. I like keeping them up, A, because it's history and people deserve to know history, and two, and B, because when you keep up these monuments, you ensure that history never repeats itself. The only reason to toss statues in the lake is to ensure that future generations do not learn from the mistakes of these men, right? So when you destroy a statue, does anyone seriously think the country will be any better by taking down a Confederate statue? Like, if you are going through life and you believe in your heart of hearts, oh man, I've never gotten a fair shake. If only that statue in the park was taken down, all my problems would be solved. That's what they're claiming, that these statues are contributing to their oppression. Anyone who is being oppressed by an inanimate object needs to see professional help. And I don't say that in jest. I say that literally. If you believe that an inanimate object made of bronze or stone is oppressing you, seek professional help, because there is zero logic to the claim that you are being oppressed by a statue. And the only thing you will gain by tearing down these statues down is ensuring that history repeats itself. Because the people who actually support this, they don't actually care, right? The real Confederates, the real racists in our society aren't going to these statues and kneeling and praying to them. No, they're racist already. These statues don't create racism. They serve as a reminder of the mistakes of our past, and a reminder that the men who've built this country, as imperfect as they may have been, did a lot of things right. Right? The idea of them wanting to tear down the Washington Monument because George Washington owned slaves. Like, really? Really? The first president? We're not even going to say his name now, too? It's very clear to anyone that we're going to get to this point, right? It is not surprising that we have reached this point, but that doesn't mean we just have to let this happen. And no, it doesn't mean go out and beat people up who are spray painting statues, but it does mean fighting for our history, because that's what's at stake now, not just with Gone with the Wind, not just with Christopher Columbus, but even the Confederacy itself. And you don't have to be pro-Confederacy to believe that we should remember our history. And so as you see these things happening, and this will not be the end of it, there'll be more coming, make sure that you're getting out and fighting for history, because if you do not, they will, for lack of a better word, whitewash it. They will get rid of our history, and they will only allow people to learn the history that they approve, which is textbook definition of propaganda.
And it doesn't get any better. I feel like every day it gets worse. Slippery slope. By the way, I think the NPR actually swallowed the red pill. NPR came out with an article just now that says, 'This is a quote, 'This is a direct quote from NPR. 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 'This is a direct quo mounting evidence that coronavirus was not as deadly as once thought. That's NPR. I think that even the liberals are afraid of the loony left, yet they see now that if you do not take back control and squish this just ridiculousness and un-Americanness that exists. By the way, if anything would be funded by terrorists, this would be it. The loony left, that 10%, would absolutely be funded by foreign interest, right?
Yeah. And NPR has not taken the red pill. We just posted this earlier today on Conservative Daily on our Facebook page that on June 8th at 5:40, they posted an article, and the title was, "Even in a pandemic, WHO believes that public protests are important." That was at 5:40 p.m. on the 8th.
And then in one day...
14 minutes later, at 5:54 p.m., NPR published an article in the title, "Trump to restart political rallies this month despite coronavirus pandemic." So they haven't taken the red pill yet.
Then one day later,
propaganda.
Then one more day later, this is what I talk about in confusion, right? One day later, they come out that says, mounting evidence, coronavirus is not as deadly as we once thought. I'm telling you, there is a fight happening right now in the liberal environment. There's a fight. The DNC has been taken over. The loony left is actually propagating everything. And frankly, people, you're having conversations with them, Max. People are tired. They're tired of all this. Like, let us get back to peace. Like peace. And by the way, if we got to have a war, just have the damn war and let's get it over with. But we're done dealing with all the crap we're dealing with. And I mean crap that they're dealing with, because in California, they're eating their own now because they walk outside their door and there's needles and piles of poop and other things on the street. And homeless shelters that aren't homeless shelters at all. They're tents that line up and down their $1 million houses. And they're going, whoa, it was okay when it was happening in somebody else's neighborhood, but now that it's in my neighborhood, this isn't right. So we're seeing people wake up to the reality that they're not safe. They're not safe. There's a guy that is a friend of mine. Actually, he's the brother-in-law of a friend of mine. And he actually got bit. He got bit by a homeless man.
A liberal?
On the street. He got bit by a homeless man, got an infection from being bit, and died 18 months later. Died because of the infection by the homeless guy that bit him. Right? Now, you can't own guns in California. Right?
Yeah.
And criminals don't pay attention to the law. And now they want to defund police. They want homeless to run rampant. They want to put drug stations, Narcan stations in every place so that you can actually resuscitate someone that decided to make a bad decision and overdose on drugs. Look, I think we've gotten to the point now where we're already in a place of anarchy because they now want to make it so that the police have no power. Did you know that there was a Senate committee meeting? I sent it to you today, the notes from one of the committees. But did you know that they had a meeting today, a federal meeting, to talk about the stand your ground laws in, I think, 31 of the 50 states, right? And imagine this, if they start stripping us of our Second Amendment rights, they start trying to take away our police, right? And they make it illegal for you to shoot someone, right, who's trying to do harm to your family. Where do we go from there? Where, Max, do we go from there? Tell me.
Yeah,
please.
that's the question. When we're all told that no one needs a gun, the police are there to protect you, and then, oh, by the way, we don't want police either. And I mean, I was talking to someone today. The limousine liberals are the ones who are calling for defunding the police. They're the same people calling for gun control because they have private security. They have private security to protect them. They don't care if they're police. The police officers aren't the first people that respond to crises at their house. It's their armed security. It's the armed security that they hire and that their neighborhoods hire. Those are limousine liberals. So it makes no sense to say you don't need a gun, the police will protect you. And, oh, by the way, we don't trust the police either. So who's going to protect us? And, oh, by the way, we talked about this the other day. Oh, by the way, if you call the police and ask them to come and respond to a crime in progress at your house, that shows how privileged you are to even think that you deserve that kind of response time. It's insane. It's insane. What we're seeing today in this country does not make sense. What we're seeing, there's no logical basis for this.
I mean,
they think they can get away with it.
I mean, I'm up for it. If you want to ask me, if you want to tell me how it makes sense, if anyone wants to call up right now that's listening that, doesn't agree with what I'm saying, and you're on that loony left, and you can actually talk, I'm open. I will listen. Look, Max, you and I disagree about a couple things, right? Fundamental things. Right? We do disagree all the time. Matter of fact, Max writes some articles for Conservative Daily, and I'm like, Max, you got to take that down. And he's like, nope. I signed it.
You've only ever told me that once. Only ever told me that once. So.
But I have called you several times and been like, whoa, come on, man, back up a little bit. But we agree to disagree. We accept each other where we are, and we take up the plight for the fact that being conservative is not a monolith, right? It just isn't. And so the things that we do individually are bound by our experience. Yet you have an entire group that have no experience that are running around trying to say that they're against something when they really are the thing that they're against. And now they're trying to destroy the fundamental value of safety and opportunity in this country because they're pissed off that they don't have billions of dollars. And don't get me wrong, we can chase it back to one place where we had a breakdown in our systems, and that was when we had the Citizens United. We can trace it right back to that. Citizens United divided our entire thing and said, okay, you guys over here on the left, you get owned by these industries, right? You get owned by tech, you get owned by pharma. On the right.
Yeah, no. Citizens United was about whether or not the FEC can block you from airing a political documentary during an election year. That's what the case was over. No one complained when Michael Moore did it, but the minute that Citizens United, the organization, wanted to air a documentary critical of Hillary Clinton in an election year, the FEC said they couldn't.
The personhood was created.
What Citizens United says is it says that individuals do not lose their free speech rights when they join associations, and that associations have these free speech rights of their members. No, I mean, Joe, I've read this case front to back. This is not something I'm wrong on. I promise you that. Citizens United says that when you join a group, an association, you don't give it your free speech rights, and the association has the rights of its members. So that's the same way that unions are able to contribute to the political process. It's saying that if I can't personally afford a billboard
this
down
is where
the street,
he says one thing and I say something totally different, but we actually talk each other.
I can team up with my neighbors. I can team up with my neighbors, and I can form a group. And we can all pool our money together to pay for the billboard, right? It's not illegal for multiple people to pay for political ads, right? Without Citizens United, what you have is that only wealthy people as individuals would be able to buy ads.
But that's what they're doing.
Eliminate the ability for organizations to do it.
Yeah, that's what they're doing.
No, they already could, right? The NRA is not wealthy people. The NRA is millions of members. The NRA buys ads during election times because Citizens United now allows them to, right? So I could never buy an ad on the airwaves, but because I'm an NRA member, I give the NRA money and they buy ads on my behalf, right? It increases the efficacy of my voice. Citizens United is a great thing for this country. Now, we can talk about the dark money aspect of it, fine. But this idea that
the dark money aspect is everything that comes out of that.
No, the dark money aspect is the consequences of it. But saying that my voice should only be as powerful as loud as I can yell, or as big as my bank account is, and I shouldn't be able to pool resources with other people. No, Citizens United is great for this country. We can have Citizens United, we can have free speech, and we can go after the dark money aspects of it, but it's not Citizens United's fault. It's the people, it's the bad actors in our society. It's their fault, right? Because before Citizens United,
that's my point, Max. My point is that if you trace it back, to the 2010 ruling, you can trace back kind of this erosion that happened where it created more kind of openings or caveats to where now industries just get to divide the people and divvy up, what they're passionate about. So oil and the oil and Second Amendment, they get the right, and pharma and by the way, if I'm wrong, then why is there such a deviation between what a liberal would support 10 years ago and what they support today? I mean, literally, the deviation it's huge. The pendulum has swung so deeply one direction to the other that it doesn't even represent the interests of those people that they say they represent. It just doesn't.
That's not Citizens United's fault. That's just
it's
the
not
fault
Citizens
of
United's
liberals.
fault, but it's an unintended consequence that has actually created these evil empires that don't allow for people to be able to make intelligent decisions because the data is not there and propaganda is what rules the day. And
The problem is that when you blame Citizens United, you're blaming the First Amendment, because that's what
No.
Citizens United says. Citizens United says that when you're an individual, you have free speech rights, and if you want to pool together resources with other individuals, you don't lose those rights. Right? Without Citizens United, the only expenditures that we'd have in political advertising would be rich individuals, because it would be illegal for more than one person to group together to pay for advertising.
But one of the
Right?
things
Unless
that they've
you're
been
labor
actually
union.
working towards is actually making sure that they could have to abolish corporate personhood. I mean, that was the whole idea of it, is that's been the push, is to not allow corporations to act like people. Because
So corporations can't act like people because it's illegal for a corporation to contribute to a political candidate directly.
Okay,
So,
so
the idea of corporate personhood, that's a term that was in the ruling, but corporations are not individual people because corporations do not have the full rights afforded to someone if they're an American citizen. Namely, the fact that corporations cannot. It's illegal for a corporation to donate directly to a candidate. It's illegal.
Let's talk directly about this. Ready? This will be really good. You'll like this. They can't donate to people, by the way, but they can create political PACs and donate to PACs and other organizations outside.
And a corporate PAC, can only take donations from its own members and its own employees. Period.
Okay.
Corporate PACs cannot solicit donations from non-employees.
Okay, so let me.
So what you're talking about is
let me back up. Let me back up because we're going to talk about.
Sure
we want to talk about corporate, and we're going to lose people in this. But the thing that I want to point out specifically when we talk about personhood is when a corporation actually commits a crime, right? The level of punishment cannot equal that of a person, yet they are still charged with a crime.
Yeah,
and typically that comes back to financial, right? It comes back to a financially being held responsible.
You can't inject a corporation with a lethal injection.
No, you can't.
I mean, obviously, you can't put them in a gas chamber. Yeah, sure.
And that, I guess, is my point. So unintended consequences have put us in a place where, they've created chasms, big gaps for where we are today, big gaps. And now the billionaires in our country and around the world are literally pushing down and creating policy that that is not good for the people. It's only good for them. It's only good for a select group of people. And frankly, I think we're in a place right now that if we don't actually reverse course and start creating some sort of accountability in our government, I actually think we're to the place where we might have already lost. We might have.
Yeah, well, I mean, in that respect, in a given week, and maybe we should end on this, in a given week, I'll see 4, 5, 6 advertisements being put out by organizations that I pay membership into. Mm-hmm. These are ads that are either aired online or they're airing on the internet or mailers in the mail. And as an individual, I would never have the ability to have that effect. I cannot afford to personally buy cable TV airtime. I just can't. But by paying into these organizations, they are pooling the resources of many, many members and buying advertisement on their behalf to push for things that they care about. So corporate PACs, as I mentioned, have to be members or employees of the corporation. You can't solicit outside donations to a corporate PAC for it to be a corporate PAC. And what corporate PACs do is basically they say, okay, employees, this is an issue that we all care about. None of us can win this fight on their own. Donate to our corporate PAC, and we will buy advertising, making sure that people understand what this legislation is going to do for us. Right? That's a very 40,000 foot, 30,000 foot view of it. A PAC, Citizens United, all that says is that groups of people do not lose their free speech rights when they become a group. And considering the fact that the First Amendment protects your right of free association, it's very obvious. So we can talk about how actors are abusing free speech rights. We can talk about how they're abusing the rights afforded to them. But to say that the ruling itself is the reason, you want to talk about unintended consequences, we'll go back to a world where the only groups of individuals who are allowed to actually participate in the political process are labor unions. Right? That's what a non-Citizens United world looks like. The only associations of individuals who are allowed to buy political ads would be labor unions. And what Citizens United said is all associations of Americans have rights. Yes, that includes corporations.
And again,
yes, that includes
again, that just put us in a position where, the unintended consequences have now fueled this propagation that we have out there. Because now, by the way, this is kind of a stretch for some people to understand. media has become an extension of political parties, right? It literally is doing the bidding of political parties. They are pushing propaganda at a rate never seen before in history. Like they just straight out lie. And we don't have a system that allows for it. We should. And we're actually talking, you and I have had this conversation about, all right, we just hire a band of lawyers. Every time the media lies, we sue them. And we just start stacking up lawsuits against them, stacking up lawsuits, and we handle it internally. And we just go after them. We use the guerrilla effect of what we have the ability to do, and we just go after the media. We literally relentlessly go after them. And you know that I've done that before. I've sued a media outlet, and I won. I won big. So going after media outlets to me makes sense. And then you start suing the individual characters, right, or bad actors inside the media companies that propagate the story, and you sue them. And you just literally stack up lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. You absolutely misled the public here. We're going to sue you for it. Well, what are the damages? Well, the damages are the people that actually followed that ended up losing something. So then we got to quantify that. But it doesn't matter. All you have to do is prove that they lied. That's all you have to do is prove that they lied. And if you continually just stack up the fact that they're lying, people at least wake up and say, oh, yep, they lied. They lied, that all they do is lie. I think we have to get to that point, Max, where we fight fire with fire. They go low, we go lower. We go lower. Because right now we're allowing them to go low and we're doing nothing. They deface our property. They, take down stuff and they have weaponized our environments. They've weaponized it. And we're in tech. We have talks all the time, right, Max? What are our talks about? Hey, let's build it. It wasn't that hard. I mean, Zuckerberg didn't build it anyway. It was built in a dorm room. It became what it is today. We have amazing tech. We're going to go out there. We're going to build it again. We're going to build it, right? And then we're going to say, you know what? Yeah. This is a quote unquote safe space. And we've been working on this. This is a safe space that we're going to build that you can have the ability to free thought and opinion. And we're not going to censor you. Well, we might.
Yeah.
We'll censor white supremacists because, frankly, I don't want to hear from them. But we'll allow you to consume information, right? Allow you to talk freely. That is what our country should be about. That's what it should be about. Not what we're going through today. What we're going through today is it's sickening. It makes me sick.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point to end on. That's going to be the end of this episode of the Conservative Daily Podcast. Remember that you can download the podcast on the Google Play Store as well as Apple Podcasts. You can find us on the Podbean app as well as conservative-daily.com/podcast. We live stream the podcast on Facebook and YouTube every day. So if you're listening to this on audio, many of the clips that we play also have video associated. So definitely make sure that you like our YouTube channel, our Facebook page to get notifications when we go live. We go live every day at 12 noon Mountain Time, which is 1 Central and 2 p.m. Eastern. So you can find us on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel live streaming.
And share it.
So again,
share.
And share it. Yeah, share. Hit that share button. So again, my name is Max McGuire.
And this is Joe Otto.
And remember that the fight to take back our country isn't over, but the only way we win is if we stand and fight together.